have a great panel for you today with women from the cast and creatives of Beautiful, the Carole King Musical on Broadway. Before she was Carole King superstar, she was Carole Klein, teenage songwriter. For 5 years, Beautiful, the Carole King Musical has thrilled theatergoers with the inspiring true story of one woman's remarkable journey from teenage songwriter to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. From the string of pop classics she wrote for the biggest acts in music to her own life-changing, chart-busting success with Tapestry, Beautiful takes you back to where it all began and takes you on the ride of a lifetime. Featuring such unforgettable classics as You've Got a Friend, So Far Away, Take Good Care of My Baby, Will You Love Me Tomorrow, and Natural Woman. This Tony and Grammy Award-winning musical phenomenon is filled with songs you'll remember and a story you'll never forget. So we're going to kick it off with a quick sizzle of Melissa Benoist rehearsing for Beautiful, and then we'll get right into the Q&A. All right, Melissa.
Hi.
Everyone, let's welcome our panelists, Melissa Benoist, who plays Carole King, Joyce Chittick, our associate choreographer, and Stacey Zaloga, our assistant stage manager. So Melissa, congratulations on your Broadway debut, playing Carole King in Beautiful. I saw the show last week. It was fantastic and great to see your interpretation of the character. I had seen it prior as well. And you currently star in the title role Supergirl on the CW, and you starred in my personal favorite, Glee. Joyce, you are the associate choreographer. You've been on Broadway for over 20 years as a performer, a dance captain, and associate choreographer. Prior to Beautiful, you worked on Anything Goes, Grease, Thoroughly Modern Millie, Cabaret, Pajama Games, and Cats. And Stacey, you are the assistant stage manager. You've been with Beautiful since the beginning, so almost 5 years now. And prior to that, you worked on Shrek the Musical, and you've stage managed other Broadway and off-Broadway shows. So our conversation today is really going to be focused on women, women in the theater industry. So each of you has had very successful careers. We're all thrilled to have you here today. So can you each tell us a little bit about your careers and how you came to where you are today? So a bit about your career path, and have there been women who helped you along the way in your careers?
Well, I mean, I feel a bit unqualified to talk about being a woman in the theater industry, as I just made my Broadway debut a month ago. But I did grow up doing theater, and it was my passion in life. I started when I was 4 years old, and Broadway was always the dream. And I had many women that, you know, really encouraged me and helped me grow, and each show I would do as I was growing up, you become such a community and a family in each production. So yeah, I met a lot of women along the way, and one in particular, I have a godmother who was my dance teacher growing up, who got to come see Beautiful, and kind of, she really ushered me into this as a career choice.
That's great. Can you share your career with us as well?
Yeah, I began my career in high school. My senior year of high school is when I joined Cats, first on tour and then on Broadway. And
Wow, how old were you?
I was 17.
Wow.
I finished high school on the road by correspondence, the days before computers. So, yes, that's how old I am. So, there was no laptop. I hand wrote all my papers, and then I would save them up, and then I would put them in a FedEx envelope, and I'd send them to my teacher. And my dad, I remember one time, because it'd been a while since I'd sent anything, he wasn't sure that I was doing my homework because I was saving them up to send them in one big FedEx. It was on that tour that I met Kathleen Marshall, whom I've done a lot of shows with. And so, as far as women go, Kathleen has been very instrumental in giving me many opportunities in this Broadway career. And just like Melissa just said, since the time I was little, this was my dream, Broadway. I remember seeing a Tony Awards when I was like 7 or 8 years old. But that was the only time you could watch it, because you couldn't rewind and you couldn't, YouTube it. And that image of those Tony Awards stuck with me, until the next year when they were on TV. And, it was always my dream goal.
Stacey, can you tell us about your career path?
Yeah, I mean, I actually got into theater and this whole aspect of entertainment like later than most people. It wasn't until college I was on a totally different career path. And my second year of college is when I kind of had my quarter life crisis and decided to completely change what I thought I wanted to do my whole life. And
what was your original plan?
I thought I was going to be pre-med.
Okay.
And I was following my dad's footsteps at that time and wanted to be a doctor, or so I thought, since I was 9. So and then I got to college and it wasn't going the way I thought it was going to go, and decided to take 4 classes my second year of college in anything that I was remotely interested in, and an introductory to theater class was one of them, because my parents had always brought me to New York. They're from New York originally, and would bring me in to see Broadway shows, and I fell in love with it at an early age, but I never in a million years thought that I would have a career in it. And so the introductory to theater was just on a whim, and I fell in love with it, and ended up changing schools and changing majors. So by my 3rd year of college, that's when I first started, and I didn't even know what a stage manager was. I went to the University of Kentucky, and I went to the theater department, and they were like, "Why are you here?" And I was like, "Well, you know how you watch the making of a movie? I'm obsessed with that, the behind the scenes, whatever." And one of my professors said on that very first day when I met him, he said, "You'd be a great stage manager." And I was like, "What's that? What is that?"
Do you want to tell the group what a stage manager
Yeah,
does?
so as a stage manager, well, for instance, on Beautiful, there are 3 of us, and basically we are there every day to make sure that the production basically happens. One of us is on stage left every day, one of us is on stage right every day, and the other one of us calls the show. And by calling the show, that's basically we have a script of the entire show with every light cue and every scenic move that happens in the show. And anytime the lights change, it's because we've said lights 36 go and someone hits a button. Anytime scenery moves, it's because we put a warn for a switch in and flick the switch off and someone takes the cue. So in a way, it's kind of like conducting the lights and the scenery. And we're also responsible for watching backstage, making sure everything's happening the way it's supposed to happen, and maintaining the safety of everyone in the show, and helping to put new people into the show, and understudy rehearsals, and maintaining the production on a whole. So, and we kind of communicate with every department that's involved in a production, and our tasks vary from beginning of show rehearsals through tech through actually running of the show, but we're there every single day doing that. And so when my professor told me, "You'd make a great stage manager," I didn't know any of this, of course, and I had to learn in college what it was, and they just kind of threw me on some main stage productions, and it just was so natural to me. And we didn't actually have a stage management class there, so I just was guided by my professors, and especially with women, there was the chair of our department at the time, Jerry Mascio, who was probably the most important woman in my life as far as my career goes. She really guided me along that process, and helped me a lot. So she's probably the most instrumental woman.
It's really great. I think we all know, especially as women in our careers, like our mentors and our sponsors are really pivotal in helping us, find our career path and take that next step. So coming back to the show, Beautiful, it is centered on one woman's story and career. So can you tell me how each of you feel connected to Carole King's story and her body of work?
Well, I'll start.
Sure.
Unlike Stacey, I wasn't here from the very beginning. I came in when we began the national tour, and I've since gone on and put together the Japan company, and now you said Tony and Grammy. It's now also Helpman Award winner in Australia.
Yeah.
So just the other day, yes, 5 Tony Awards, including Best Musical. So I was there. I helped Mark Bruni put together the production in Australia. So I came on board, and I came to see the show before I met the choreographer. And I came by myself, which I was really glad I did. And I just wept. And the first time that my heart, my heartstrings were pulled was when Carole first sings Wonderful. And, I'm a mother now. And, having lived your life a lot, relationships, et cetera, marriage, children, et cetera, there was so much that spoke to me. And so many songs in this show that I didn't realize that she wrote. They are timeless. And I still, 3 years later, watch the show and I get teary-eyed in moments because it's human nature, you know what I mean? And there's so much joy and heart, and it speaks to everybody. It really does, and I was instantly drawn to it.
Yeah, I had a very similar experience watching it for the first time. I hadn't seen it until I knew I was going to be doing it. So I watched it for the first time the night before I started rehearsing. And I just gave myself one night to let it kind of wash all over me. And I essentially washed myself with my tears. I was crying. I was weeping.
Yeah. And in a good way, too.
Yes,
at the end, in such a joyful way. The lyric that you get to sing every night, you've got to wake up every morning with a smile on your face and show the world all the love in your heart. And I think that in our world today, I think that sentence just speaks volumes. And that's what we need in our lives, is to show people the love that we have and the care. And
that's really what is so beautiful about Carole.
Yeah.
And why she is this living legend. Because she lives that way.
Have you met her?
She really does. No, I haven't.
Have any of you met her?
Yes.
I've met her several times now. Yeah.
I've met her, and she is full of life.
Yeah.
She has more energy, I think, than all of us right here put together.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, she does.
She's exactly what you want her to be and more, and the expectations of what you think she's going to be.
It's no wonder these melodies came from her.
Yeah.
They just emanate from her.
Yeah.
And so did any of you know her music or love her music before the show?
Of course.
Yeah. I mean, the Tapestry album, probably for all of us, was my mom's favorite album of all time. And it became one of mine as a child, too, because my mom loved it so much. And I remember on road trips, we'd have our CD collection of what do we listen to now? And I would always be like, Carole King time, let's go, let's put Tapestry on. So it was very special to me too. And I remember when I got this job too, and I was so excited, and I told my mom all about the show, but I didn't tell her what it was first. And she was so excited. And then I go, do you want to know what it's called? And she goes, yeah. And I go, Beautiful, the Carole King Musical, and she just freaked out. And
Did your mom get to meet Carole?
My mom actually has met Carole. When Carole did the Today Show with us once with Shalina and Abby, right before Abby went on tour, my mom happened to be visiting me in the city, and I wasn't supposed to go to that press event. Other people were going, and I was like, I don't know, you want to roll out of bed and go over there? And she was like, if I don't, I'll regret it for the rest of my life. So we did, and we went, and I got to introduce Carole to my mom really quickly. So
Carole needs to get here before you go.
I know.
I hope I get to meet her. I don't want to know if she's in the audience until after, but I hope I get to meet her.
It's a little
lot
bit
of pressure.
pressure.
A lot of pressure.
Joyce, can you tell us about your role as an associate choreographer and what that entails?
So I maintain all the movement in the show for the Broadway company and the national tour. So it involves various things, auditions, helping the casting people find people that are right for the show, teaching them the movement, working with them. When we hire people, I'm the person that initially works with them and teaches them all the movement. And when I say teach the movement, we're working with people that are not dancers first. They're singers. This is a singer's show. And so a lot of times we have found people that are phenomenal talents. Their voices are incredible, but they're not confident in their movement. And so I come in and I help them find that confidence in their natural movement abilities and sort of help show them that it's not about 5, 6, 7, 8. It's about the feeling of the movement and where it comes from within you, so that's sort of my main goal, and to keep it fresh. Like I said, because we're now how many years running?
Yeah, 4.5, I guess now. Yeah.
I'm not about here's the steps and you have to do it just like this. Sometimes I'll, not change the choreography, but just find how it works on their bodies and keeping it exciting and passionate from each performer.
And Joyce, is this very different than other shows you've worked on that maybe, if this is more of a singer's show than a dancer's show, has your approach had to be very different than on other shows that are more dance-oriented?
Very different. And you say my 20-plus career. I began dance captaining when I was 20 with Tommy on Broadway. And throughout my course of my career, I have worked with so many different abilities and ages and body types. And you have to find each person, what's going to work for one person doesn't work for another. And your approach is different with singers than it is for somebody who's spent a lot of time in front of a mirror, learning how to plie and hold their arms. And when I do have people that come into the show that have had a lot of dance training, it's a completely different approach of how you work with them versus the singers. In Australia and Japan, for example, I had a couple guys that had never done musical theaters. One was like a gospel singer, and the other, in Australia, he was this jazz singer. And they're comfortable singing, but yet as soon as you teach them choreography, this fear of God comes over them. And so it's taking that fear away from them and getting them to realize that what we're doing is so simple, and you do it when you're fooling around in your shower, or you know what I mean. But then when suddenly it's those 5, 6, 7, 8 come out of a mouth, everybody goes like that.
So each of you shared that Broadway was a dream of yours, so that was a consistent theme for each of you. So can you share how each of you began your Broadway journey and how you came to work with Beautiful?
Yeah, I mean, it's weird because I feel like in this business, a lot of what you do, a lot of the jobs that I've gotten, 90% of the time has been because of the job prior, because I knew somebody that led me to somebody else.
I was there for Stacey's first job.
That's true. That's true. We met 15 years ago, gosh, on a production of The Boyfriend that Julie Andrews, it was her directorial debut at Bay Street Theater out on Long Island. And I was an intern then, but Bay Street used interns as the assistant stage managers. So even though I hadn't joined the union yet, like I still was the assistant stage manager on that production.
Is it an unpaid internship?
It was paid, but paid. Yeah,
Housing.
Grunt money, housing. They give you housing, like a very small, 100. I don't even remember, maybe 200 at most a week, or maybe not even that. But that's what a lot of production assistant and intern jobs are at first, until you actually do get into the union and get union jobs. And so my career kind of took off after that show, because the scenic And costume designer was Tony Walton, who used to be married to Julie Andrews years ago, and they had a daughter, Emma, who actually at the time was running Bay Street Theater. And I started working for him after that as a personal assistant for a little while, but one of the questions he asked me was, what do you really want to do? And I said, I really want to be a stage manager. And he said, I think I can help you with that. So he introduced me to an amazing stage manager named Peter Lawrence, who got me my first sub job on Spamalot, and then my first full-time show, which was Shrek the Musical. And then things just kind of progressed from there. And then, but this job is actually different in that I reached out to our production stage manager, Peter Hansen, and I just, on a whim, started reaching out to some people just saying, hey, can I have coffee with you? And he met me for coffee. And then like a year later, he hired me to work on a workshop production. And then like another year later, this job came up and he just called me out of the blue. And that had gone so well that he asked me to do this with him and Johnny Krause, his assistant. And they've been working together for years. So yeah, Peter and Johnny have been working together for 20 plus years together. And I was new to their team and got to join them. And the three of us just worked so well together. So it was kind of a perfect fit.
And how'd you come to Beautiful?
Yeah, because I had worked with them on a prior like 2-week-long thing, and Johnny really liked me from that moment. When they were looking for an assistant, they really wanted to have a woman actually as their third team member, just because they like working with women, and they also just like having the team kind of be balanced that way. So Peter always says sometimes sometimes other women in the show like to talk to women, and so it's kind of nice to have the team have a variety of men and women and stuff. So and then we just started working on the show together, and it was my first time working with them like on the beginning of show. So it was, I mean, they'd worked together for years, but I just joined in, so trying to find the balance of how I fit in this team with the two of them, and we all it just worked really well, and we all get along so well. That's why all three of us are still there, because we enjoy working together. So, yeah, it's very rare actually. Yeah. So, yeah.
And Joyce, you started your career at 17.
At 17, and then that led me to the Broadway company of Cats. And as I mentioned earlier, Kathleen Marshall was one of the dance captains on tour with Cats, and she taught me the show. So that friendship began there. And when I moved to New York to do Cats, I pounded the pavement the old-fashioned way, picking up a paper of backstage. I didn't have an agent. I went to those open calls, and you would go check your answering service. Mine was bells are ringing. And, I think my box number was like 312. And you'd go to a payphone and you'd see if you had a call back. And, one thing led to another. And I just, kept working, going from show to show, and became a dance captain very early on, like I said, with Tommy. And that sort of led like a parallel career. I was a career as a performer, but then I was always sort of juggling this other side of myself as a dance captain. Mark Bruni and I have known each other, my gosh, how long now? Over a decade. We've done several shows together when he was an associate. And I did a production at Encore of Paint Your Wagon. I was the associate for Dennis Jones. And they were looking for somebody in this position for Beautiful. And Mark recommended me to the choreographer, since Mark and I had worked together in Grease and other shows, putting people into shows and stuff. So that's how I came to Beautiful.
People looking out for you.
Yeah.
And Melissa, how about you? Can you tell us about your career path, how you started your career, and how you came to work on Beautiful?
Well, I knew, like I said, Broadway was my dream. So I came to New York City to go to college on the Upper East Side at Marymount Manhattan College to get a degree in acting. And Broadway and the stage was kind of the only arena I thought I was going to pursue. And then I started doing episodic work because, almost every actor at one point or another gets an episode of Law & Order. It's inevitable.
Or multiple.
Yeah, I've done two. I did SVU and an episode of Criminal Intent before that show went off the air. But I really enjoyed how different it was. And so that's sort of where my path into television and film started. And that was really unexpected and really did kind of take me away from theater for a bit. But I was doing the same, pounding the pavement and going to open calls and, running and having 3 auditions a day and not really getting anywhere in theater and doing a few regional things here and there. So, and then I got Glee, which I was very fortunate to do, and kind of involved my love of musical theater.
Yeah.
But it took me to the opposite side of the country, and then, things kind of snowballed after that. But I was always wanting to come back to stage and to New York, because I just love being in this city, and I feel like myself on stage. And so I was constantly pestering my agents and my managers, like, guys, I really want to do theater. And they'd be like, yeah, okay. And then this kind of came about because Shalina Kennedy she got a show at the Atlantic Theater Company, and they needed someone in the interim for 2 months, and before Abby Mueller came back. And it sort of just fit into this tiny little slot on my hiatus of Supergirl, and I was planning on doing nothing, but like
Your
sitting
summer
around.
vacation.
Yes.
Working 8 shows a week.
Yeah, it did, and
Yeah.
I couldn't be happier that it did. I wouldn't have forgiven myself if I didn't take this opportunity. And it's sort of like a dream come true, and I'm turning 30 this year, and my childhood dream cheesily came true this year.
A lot of Broadway debuts on our show too.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
Such the energy when that happens, and when Melissa joined, and,
Yep.
and so many other people that
A
have
lot of our drifters and charades.
had their Broadway debuts
Yeah.
on our show. We just added another Sherelle just
Yep.
recently, that she also joined the union and Broadway debuts.
And
She got her Actors Equity card?
Yeah, she did. And,
Yeah,
and
you-
the other
Awesome.
day when we were working on the stage for the first day on stage, she said, "Oh, a thing came up, a memory of on my Facebook. 7 years ago, I was doing an internship and I was making $50 a week, and and now here
On
she
my
was
Broadway.
standing on her Broadway debut stage." So.
That's amazing.
It makes it so
Great.
fun when
Yeah.
that happens too.
Melissa, can you tell us about stage acting and screen acting, and what the differences are, and how you approach each of them? And does working on both help you hone your craft?
They're so different, and I to the point where I hadn't been on stage in almost 6 years before I got this opportunity, and I would be in rehearsals with Shelley, one of our associate directors, and she'd be like, "I think you just need to speak up a little more." And I'd be like, "Oh, sorry, I have to get back into this." They're totally different skill sets and muscles that you have to flex, and it's hard. It's a different way of conveying your emotions. It's a different scale of energy that you expend. And it also depends on whatever project you're working on, because working on Glee, I could be a little more theatrical and presentational, and but then in things like I worked on the movie Whiplash, and that had to be so subtle that it almost didn't feel like I was doing anything. That you just kind of had to feel and let it hope that it was translating somehow. And I don't prefer one or the other. They're both challenging in their own respect, but it's really different approach.
Do you hope to continue spending your summers on the stage in some capacity?
Oh my gosh, of course. Yes.
Are you going to come back?
I hope so. I know. I would love to.
So can you all tell us what has been the most surprising thing about working on Broadway? So each of you has, dreamed about this since you were young. Are there things that are different than you expected?
Well, you don't, when you're little and you don't realize that it's 8 shows a week.
I was just going to say the same thing.
Yeah.
Grueling it is.
It's 8
Monday,
shows a
week
week,
off.
week after week after week. But then to remember that the audience, maybe there's fans and they come and see it a lot, but the audience is seeing it for the first time, and you've got to make it fresh every time. And so you've got to find that passion within you every night to not just phone it in, not just press auto, pilot. And, I know for myself with all the shows that I have done, I would sort of hit a year mark with a show, and I would be like, I can't do this 8 times a week anymore, week after week. But I also was always teaching the shows most of the time. I was not only physically performing it, but I was always teaching one track or another, and keeping it fresh. It's a hard thing to do week after week. And being a dancer, what it has done to my body, you know what I mean? Like the aches and the pains, and from doing that repetitive motion. So.
Stacey, how about you? What surprised you?
I mean, I would
Broadway?
second that, the time commitment that it takes. And I think the hardest part for everyone, and it's something that we all talk about a lot backstage, is the fact that we miss out on a lot of other family life events. In order to do this. Holidays, we work holidays, everyone's normal weekend generally is, Friday to Sunday, and that's our busiest time. We generally do 5 shows. I've missed weddings, friends' weddings and events, and we get occasional time off, but it's limited and it's hard, especially the holidays are hard. So, and to have our families understand why sometimes I can't make it to that. I really wish I could, but I can't. That's probably the hardest part of the job. But it's so rewarding too. I find like when I do talk to family and friends outside, like they just want to ask me so many questions about, what do you do? That must be so cool. And I find myself, the day-to-day sometimes is exhausting, but I do have moments backstage all the time where I'm like, this is so cool that I do this for a living. Like, this is my job. Like, they pay us. Yeah. Like, I had a surreal moment the other day when, like, one of our hair people was walking around with, like, wigs on heads. And I was like, this is our day. This is our life. We get paid to come here and do this. And our building has been such a special family feeling. Everybody that comes in is just another member of the family, and it's been such a happy place to work. And
it's a very good group there.
Very good.
Yeah, they're gonna have to drag me out of that building one day. I'm not leaving until they make me. So.
And having worked on so many different shows, I mean, this is just one you just don't tire of.
Yeah.
You don't tire of this music.
The music never gets old, ever.
Yeah, and the joy of it. Is, I've been a part of shows that you don't have that experience every night, and you're battling to stay running, and you're like, oh, the audience weren't there, they didn't like it, they weren't engaged in it. But this is one of those shows that you take people on a journey, and it's a joyful one.
Melissa, how about for you? So 1 month in on Broadway, it's still fresh for you. What's been most surprising?
Well, I think what's been surprising is very similar to what Joyce was saying, because I was coming into this like, 8 shows a week, yeah, it's a lot, but I'm used to working 16-hour days and on Supergirl, and being in a spandex suit and a leather cape for 15 of those hours. And
under hot lights.
Yeah, and that's an exhausting job, and it really takes a lot out of me, but so I think I underestimated. I underestimated, and this is the difference too between television and stage acting, is the audience is, there's nothing like that. And it is kind of stereotypical to say, but like it changes everything, and it requires so much more focus and energy, and you really have to mean it, because they can see it.
And you take a journey every night.
Yeah.
You ride that.
You have to go there with
arc.
them. And it's more exhausting to me than Supergirl has ever been, and in a very fulfilling way. So that is something that's been surprising to me, is the time commitment and how much of my soul I bear every night.
And even though you're exhausted, when you receive that love from the audience, you probably takes a few hours to go to bed at night,
Oh
right?
my gosh,
you're on
I'm
a
wired.
high. Even though you're exhausted, you're on a high.
I'm starving and I can't sleep, and like,
But you're exhausted.
Yes.
You're like, it's the best drug.
Yes,
Seriously.
totally.
Yeah.
I mean, I still get goosebumps every night during the curtain call, especially when whoever's playing Carole comes out and that audience just goes
that's
crazy
really
every night. Yeah.
Yeah. So over the past few years, representation in Broadway theater has become more important than ever, and this includes bringing more women into the spotlight as well as more women behind the scenes. So we're seeing more and more opportunities for women in the industry. So what have you been noticing from your perspectives as members of the theater community and the TV community? And are you seeing more of this positive change?
Definitely. I mean, I've talked to Peter and Johnny, the stage managers I work with, and they say, 15 years ago, it was all a male-dominated field, stage management generally, and he goes and teaches a lot to classrooms, and is seeing now in the colleges, the stage management groups, he says, or now it's almost all women in the classrooms, and very few men now, and I definitely feel like there's been a shift, especially in my department, over the last 15 or so years.
That's exciting.
Yeah, it's really
That's
cool.
great, especially for like the more technical
Yeah,
side of
there's
theater.
because there aren't a lot, and even on our show we now have sound person woman Kate, and Josie's backstage, and there's more women, but it's definitely, especially the crew is definitely more male dominated, but there's definitely we're starting to infiltrate a little bit.
Yeah, and here at Google, we're very invested in, getting women more involved in the technical side, and investing in girls and helping them learn to code as well. So it's great to see that there's like a similar shift happening on the technical side of theater as well. Is there any advice that you would like to give women or girls who aspire to be part of the theater community?
Oh, goodness.
I mean, it's a different day and age now from like when I began. I mean, this social media, here we are, Google. Social media is just everything now. But I think that's great, and I think it's a great tool. But I think that there's nothing like the good old-fashioned hard work of taking those classes, and not just, oh yeah, my video looks great, don't I look good? But no, can you do that 8 times a week? Can you sustain that? And if this is what you want to do, it has to be your passion.
Yeah.
You have to love it, because
It's
it
too
is
hard
an
otherwise.
emotional roller coaster
It really
at
is.
times.
Never knowing when your next job's
Yeah.
gonna come, how long it's gonna last. It's a grind.
Yes, it is a grind, and but if you love something, then invest everything you have in yourself to do it, and the people along the way that you may think may not mean anything sometimes, those are going to be the people that will call you up and say, oh, hey, or recommend you. And, I would never have thought I'd be here, but it was my relationship with Mark Bruni that led me here. I didn't know the choreographer before this job.
That's kind of what I would think is advice that I would have liked to have heard. I think the more you give as a person, it's returned to you in abundance, especially with kindness, and especially with, listening and taking the time to get to know the people you work with, and sharing the experience, and like really remaining present and being where you are in that moment. And you're right, it pays off. And it's always in the most unexpected ways. And I think this show kind of exemplifies that too, because we take this journey every night, and with Carole kind of finding ownership of who she is and really embracing herself as an artist. And I think if you want to do this as a career, you really have to find that inner light in yourself to follow it and to really just be true to who you are.
Yeah. So this has been a really challenging and eye-opening year for women in the entertainment industry with the Me Too and the Time's Up movements. Scores of women have spoken out about sexual assault and harassment in the entertainment industry, and through the Time's Up movement, there's been a focus on workplace equality and creating economic opportunities and fair pay for women. So what have your experiences been as women during this watershed moment in the entertainment industry? And have you or other women or have worked with overcome challenges?
Yeah. And, it's ongoing.
Yeah.
I do have to say, though, joining this company, I've not felt anything but just warmth and love. And this particular company, from what I've seen, you guys have it figured out. And everyone is just on the same playing field. That's what I've experienced. It's been a stressful year and a frustrating one in many respects, concerning Time's Up and Me Too, but also very uplifting. And specifically on Supergirl, I do see things changing every day.
Yeah.
And you know, it's a male-dominated field, the crew for a television series, but we're hiring more women, and we're trying to get more female directors, and it's always a part of the conversation every day that we're putting something out there. We're like, okay, well, what are we saying? And what does this have to relate to? How will women, and young girls specifically, take this and internalize it? And like, how will this make them feel? And what are we saying and adding to the conversation? So a day does not go by that I don't think about what's happening, you know?
Especially portraying, you know, a character that girls are looking up to. So, are you thinking about things like the writing and, you know, what is your role portraying? And
yeah, absolutely. And what making sure that women believe that they can have parity and equality, and that we call ourselves more humanist than we are feminist, because it's we are feminists as well, but humanists, we just think everyone deserves to be equal, no matter what sexuality, no matter what gender, no matter where you come from, your race, anything. So yeah, it is definitely a part of our conversations.
Great. At this point, we'd like to welcome people to come up to the microphones if you have any questions. So feel free to come up to the mics, and I'll continue with questions as well. Melissa, you are involved in a mental health awareness movement called I Don't Mind.
Yes.
That works to put a stop to the stigma around mental illnesses. How did you come to be involved in I Don't Mind, and what are you hoping to achieve?
Well, my boyfriend, Chris Wood, he has had the idea to start this for the past 5 years because he sadly lost his father due to mental illness. So it's very near and dear to his heart. It means a lot to him because I think he felt things might have gone differently if there wasn't such a stigma around dealing with it, or getting people help, or talking about it. And he grew up in the Midwest, so I think it is different in many different places. But so he wanted to start it, and I think everyone in this room maybe either know someone or experience it yourself. And none of us are immune to it. Our brains are very delicate and fragile and complicated things. And, you know, we both, Chris and I, believe that, you know, you should take care of them the way you take care of the rest of your body. The way you go to the gym to take care of your health, you should go to a therapist or a counselor to take care of your mind. And it's not a shameful thing. So I've been really involved in helping him come up with, you know, who we want to target, young people, but anyone really, and just get people talking about the way they feel with each other. And being open to listen and be there when someone needs a helping hand.
Yeah, and opening the dialogue.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's great. Let's take a question here.
Hello. Thank you all for coming. This question's for Melissa. I was wondering, as you were preparing for this role to play Carole King, how much did you prepare to sing in your own voice versus impersonating Carole King's voice?
Well, I met with our music director, Jason Howland, a couple weeks before I got into rehearsals, and just to sing through the music and to learn some of the piano bits. And the first thing he said to me was, "We don't want this to be an impersonation. It's not you mimicking her. It's not any of that. But listen to her music. Don't listen to Jessie Mueller. Don't listen to Shalina's versions. Listen to Carole, and just try to imbue or infuse just her aura if you can." So that's all I did really, was I would just listen nonstop on repeat to Tapestry and her versions of the songs that I was singing.
Thanks.
And Melissa, you played piano before this show?
Yeah, I do. I cannot play like Carole, but I did play piano.
So
yeah.
was that challenging to learn to play piano as Carole on the stage as part of the rehearsal process?
Yeah, essentially it was the thing I was the most nervous about
Okay.
from the get-go, but it's a bit like choreography, and
It is. Yeah.
it's a different part of your brain you have to, but now you get in the rhythm of it with the song when you're singing on stage, and it's a lot of fun.
And so, Melissa, you'll be in the show through August 4th. What is next for you? So you'll be returning to Supergirl.
Yes, I think I have 2 days in between. I close Beautiful, I have a weekend, and then I'm back in Vancouver shooting 2 days after.
Okay. And what do you hope to do next?
I don't know. We're up in Canada for quite some time. It's like 10 months out of the year, so I don't know.
But now
take it
you've
a
got
day
this
at a
theater
time.
itch in you.
I would love to get back on stage. I'm always going to be looking for more theater opportunities.
Yeah. And Joyce and Stacey, how about you? Stacey, you've been with the show for 5 years.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hoping it'll be 5 more, so I'll be there. I'll
So
be
you're
there
hoping to stick
as
with
long as
with this.
Yeah.
And Joyce,
And
for you?
I'm here, and the tour regroups at the end of August, and we tech in Denver, and so their reopening is in Denver, and then they're booked for a few more years. And I'm also a mother, so that's anybody's a mother or father, it's a full-time job. And I'm also doing some of my own choreography, so I'm doing a little production of South Pacific in Cape Cod, coming up here this summer at the Cape Playhouse. So it's very short stint, and it rehearses in New York, so I don't have to, leave Beautiful. I can still do my job here.
Great. Still have your side projects?
Yes.
Great. Well, thank you
And I think we have
again.
one-
Oh, do we have another question?
Yeah.
Yes, please.
Hi there. So I have 2 kids. My daughter is 15 and my son is turning 11 tomorrow. And both of them are religious Supergirl fans, as well as Glee, certain episodes of Glee fans. And my son is an aspiring song and dance man. He's a complete musical theater, passionate performer. And I was curious to the point about taking classes and making sure that you're still doing the work of taking classes. Knowing that you do 8 shows a week, what would you say, Melissa, are the key classes that you keep up with, that you keep taking, or in terms of really putting in the training to be a performer?
Well, I don't have to dance in Beautiful, but if I did, I would for sure be in ballet and jazz. Ballet to me is the most important.
It's the foundation.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I was doing 8 shows a week in my early days, I would race uptown between shows and go take a class at Steps. Not only that, I would start with a voice lesson across the street at Ansonia for an hour, and then run next door to Steps and take a class for another hour, and then run back down to do show number 2. And I was 20. I had a lot of energy to do that, so you just have to keep doing that instead of sitting around and
This
dreaming
instrument really is, it's wild that we do 8 shows a week and we rely on these 2 tiny little muscles in our throat. And they're so fragile and
need to be maintained.
and taken care of and used properly and healthily. So yeah, voice lessons are things that I still keep up with, even when I'm not doing theater in Vancouver and in LA.
And if he's a song and dance man, he needs to take every kind of dance class out there from all different types of teachers. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you again to Melissa Benoist, Joyce Chittick, and Stacey Zaloga for joining us at Google this afternoon. Everyone visit beautifulonbroadway.com to buy your tickets and see Melissa in Beautiful, the Carole King musical, from now through August 4th at the Stephen Sondheim Theater. Thank you all for joining us.
Thanks for having us.